Hey, everybody. So, today, in my absence, I want you guys to take a little bit of time and continue pushing forward with the idea of using an average rate of change to make predictions. So, just to recap, last week we started by looking at what an average rate of change was with our two trips analogy. Right? And we saw how an average rate of change was the constant rate that would overall achieve the same change in output in the same amount of time or same change in output while having the same change in input. Right, where we then started practicing that was with our Canvas task, and what we really layered in there was the importance of the units of the average rate of change. We looked at how the units of the average rate are just the units of the output per the units of the input. That way, our average rates units are a fraction because we're comparing two different things at the same time. Then on Friday, what we started to push forward into was using average rates to make simple predictions. So that was the task that was right before this bachelor's degree task in Canvas. And most people were able to finish that up on Friday. But if you need to, go back to that and you can review some of the extra examples. And that will then cue you up and get you ready for today's task, which is just called the degree project. So first, you're going to need to click on this link, and that will give you an opportunity to create your own copy of this document. This is where all of your work today is going to be done. Okay, so once you have your copy of a document, what you're going to need to do is click on this link right here in your document, and it'll take you to this spreadsheet. What this spreadsheet shows is in a variety of years, it shows for different degrees how many of those degrees were actually awarded. And specifically, this is talking about bachelor's degrees. So, a bachelor degree is just that first 4 year degree that you can get after high school. So, what your job will be for today is going to be starting by looking at this first column and trying to find one of these degrees that you find most similar to something that you would actually like to study. Right? So, I know this is not all encompassing. You may have something that you're interested in and it's not here, and I apologize about that. But try your best to find something on this list that's at least an area of interest to you. And what this task will then do is this will give us an opportunity to look at how are the number of degrees being completed changing over time. Okay, so once you have chosen a degree, like say, for example, say I choose education as the degree, what I will do is then I'll come here into my document in this first field where it says field of study, I'll just type in the degree. And then here you see it says complete the table of values from your degree field. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to type in how many degrees were actually awarded in each of these years, right? And that's basically just pulling in information that's given here on the document. Now, let me point something interesting out to you. You'll notice here for my field of education, my first year is from 1980 to 1981. And what I'm told here is that there were 108,074 bachelor's degrees that were awarded in that year in this field. Okay, so if I was again doing this, in this year 1980, notice I'll just use 1980. This is going to be referring to that 1980 and 1981. I would just type in that 108,074 in this spot. Okay, so that's where I'll start. Is I'm going to fill in all of this information, just copying that from the spreadsheet. Once I have that information copied in from the spreadsheet, now I'm going to need to go in and I'm going to calculate the average rate of change. So I'm just going to put in a couple of quick numbers. So let's say that I had 2 and 4 in these spots. If I wanted to calculate the average rate of change, what I would need to do is I would need to just use the average rate of change formula. I could do y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Now, you have a couple ways of doing this. Of course, you can just do this with your calculator and you can just type your answer in here. Or I also want to show you one more option that you can do. If you click here into this average rate of change field, you can go up to the toolbar and click Insert and choose Equation. If you do this, you can actually type in your formula work pretty nicely. So if you press the equals key, and then right up in here, you hover over this 1, 2, 3, this fourth block, you can click on this little fraction icon. This would give you the setup that you would need to actually type all of the average rate of change calculation in as a formula. And then you can actually type in a single value that you would get for this. So this would be, again, just if I did the subtraction, I would get 2/5, at least for the example that I have. So your job is going to be to first fill in all of this data. Once you have the data filled in, then calculate your average rates of change. Okay. Once you have your average rates of change calculated, then down here, I'm going to ask you to use those average rates of change to make some predictions. So this is going to be exactly the same sort of a predictive process as what we used whenever we were going through our task on Friday. So again, if you need a hand with just helping you recall the basics of how do we predict with average rates, look at the presentation that's embedded from Friday's task. Remember, really the idea was just we're adding average rates to move forward in time. So if I wanted to predict how many degrees would be conferred in 1982, well, I would take the number of degrees from 1980, and here, if this is my average rate of 2/5, that means that every year I would add 2/5 on top of it. So I would just take my 1980 plus 2 of the 2/5. Okay, so again, you can take a look at the presentation from Friday for just kind of a refresher on how that would work through. What you'll want to do is you'll want to make predictions. Remember, all of these right here are what were called interpolations because we were filling in gaps inside of our data. And then we would also work on these. Remember, these are what were called extrapolations. These were all predictions that we're making that were stretching outside of our given data. Okay, so we can do all of those predictions with our average rates of change, just like on Friday. The only class time that you're going to have to work on this is the timing class day. So please make sure that you start off by recording all of your data and getting your average rates. This is going to be due by Wednesday at 11:59 p.m. So if you need a little bit more time to work on this after school on Wednesday, you are more than welcome to do so. But on Wednesday in class, we are going to be moving forward and we're going to be working on a new activity. So the only time that we're going to actually have in class time to work on it would be the time that you're working today in class. Okay, so please make sure that you invest this time wisely, and then we will touch base again on Wednesday and see how things are progressing.